Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing the relationship between Atriox and the Banished and the Didact. So just as a preface, I want to quickly explain why I'm talking about this, because it might seem at a glance like a really weird topic. So there's this piece of concept art that shows the various face paint designs for Atriox. Now whether all four are canon or just prototype designs does remain to be seen. However, there's one face paint with a name that stands out above all the others: Didact Hunter. So before we start, don't forget to leave a like as per usual. Let's try and hit 400. So when it comes to contemplating why Atriox might be named the Didact Hunter, or why he might have a face paint with that name, we've got to try and understand why the Banished actually splintered from the Covenant in the first place. All we know so far is that Atriox defied the Prophet's commands and then rebelled, but it's a pretty big leap from simply defying your leader's commands to creating an entire faction of like-minded warriors to fight against their former faction. There had to be some sort of dissonance between the two groups' beliefs for the Banished to be created and become such a powerful force. Now, given the Didact Hunter name, I think I might actually have a pretty damn accurate prediction as to what caused Atriox to defect, and this is disagreements in the treatment of foreigner artifacts and relics. Now, as we know, the Covenant were insanely strict when it came to the handling and treatment of foreigner artifacts. They weren't to be mishandled, mistreated, or messed with in any way unless under the High Rock specific orders. They were to be defended and kept pristine by whatever means possible, even if that meant giving your own life for it. After all, they were relics of their gods that the entire Covenant religion and faith was constructed on. Now, the name Didact Hunter makes me think that Atriox wasn't exactly the most caring of brutes when it came to handling the foreigner artifacts. So, let's run with the assumption that the Banished split from the Covenant due to dissonance with their beliefs in how the foreigner artifacts and relics should be handled. What does this mean for Atriox being named the Didact Hunter? Well, at face value, it's pretty obvious. Atriox may not like or agree with the Covenant worshipping the foreigners for whatever reason, so wants to rebel against the core of their belief. But I think it's something a lot more than that, a lot deeper than that. Having the title Didact Hunter implies that you've done more than just disagree with something.
Yeah.
So what if Atriox single-handedly wants to put an end to the foreigners once and for all? He may want to do this because they led to the formation of the Covenant that caused so many of his Jiralhane brothers to be treated terribly, or for another reason that's yet to be revealed. This could explain why he's taken the Banished to the Ark. Arguably the most important of all of the foreign artifacts are the Halo Rings, which, as we know, are created at the Ark. If Atriox hates the foreigners and wants to destroy them, then destroying or taking control of the Ark is a damn good way to fulfill that, at least partly. More directly, however, being named the Didact Hunter may literally mean that he's hunting the Didact. I mean, it'd make sense if he has no respect for the foreigners, especially seeing as they've only recently come back into fruition in the galaxy. However, this begs the question of whether or not he knows the Didact has been composed. Seeing as how intelligent 343 are hyping him up as being, I'd guess that he would be aware of this, so this leads to my next question. If he knows the Didact has been composed, why is he hunting him? On the Ark specifically? Well, I might actually have an answer for this. When the Didact was composed, his soul very likely went to the Composer's Abyss, which is where all the composed souls are stored. This abyss is located on Installation 03, which just happened to be damaged in escalation, and to be repaired, it was very likely taken by its monitor Static Carillon to the Ark, where the Foundry World will have been harvested to provide the resources for its repairs. Now this not only lends heavy support to the theory that the ring in the centre of the Ark in Halo Wars 2 is in fact Installation 03, but it also hints at the Didact's essence very likely being on the Ark. Now, with the Didact's essence technically being at the Ark, you'd expect him to possibly make an appearance in Halo Wars 2's story, whether it be a focal point of the entire story, or just a few references here and there. Now, surprisingly, there's actually some evidence behind this. There's a high possibility that the Prometheans will be in Halo Wars 2, but possibly only in the multiplayer. However, still, it's evidence. For the record, I got this from a tweet by Duststorm of Podtacular, who actually attended the Halo Wars 2 panel at SDCC in person. So that's some pretty legit evidence right there. There is also the chance that the Banished and Julum Dharma's faction were rivals at some point, and Atriox wanted to cut the head off Jul's faction, which is basically the Didact, to put an end to it and its Covenant beliefs. Atriox seems to have a hatred towards most Sangheili due to how they treated the brutes when they were part of the Covenant. So maybe his prejudice towards Jul's faction and his wanting to kill the inspiration behind it, being the Didact, is due to how it was a mostly Sangheili-run faction, with very, very, very few brutes. This is possible, and it makes sense. That is, if Atriox somehow doesn't know about Jul's death, the collapse of his faction, and the Didact being composed. Now, lastly, I'd like to briefly talk about the fact that Atriox is the Didact Hunter, not the Didact Hunter. This suggests that he isn't just hunting the Didact we know from the games, but possibly even Didacts in general. Now, personally, I don't really think this is the case, because I'm 99% sure he'd have no idea that any other Didacts, for example, the ISO Didact Bornstella, even ever existed. Unless, of course, he found some terminal or foreigner artifact on a foreigner installation that spoke about his existence. If, on the off chance this is the case, however, it would confirm that Bornstella is in the galaxy somewhere, which would be absolutely huge. But sadly, I doubt it. He's likely just the Didact Hunter, the hunter of the Didact that races in the galaxy actually know about and was a major threat recently, not any other Didacts that likely the rest of the races in the galaxy have no idea ever existed.
Wow, so I feel like I knew about like the face paints and stuff like that, or like the concept art for it, but I don't think I kind of like really paid attention to like the names and everything. The fact that he had the face paint of Didact Hunter and all that, it could have been that like we all know Atriox's like hatred for the Forerunners, for humans, and for humans in general, for Chief, especially in the most recent Halo game. And it could have been like he focused more on the humans, aka Chief, in the most recent game, because maybe he found out about the Didact. Like, it became like public knowledge, I assume, at the events of Halo 4, where Chief destroyed the Didact and what happened to New Phoenix and all of that, because the Didact, was going to just destroy Earth, and he only destroyed New Phoenix. And it could be that Atriox kind of found out about the Didact, about what Chief did, and was then mad at Chief that he killed the Didact, and he Atriox didn't get to, because he already has the hatred for Forerunners and for humans in general, and all of that. Like, it kind of blows me away that like the Prometheans weren't mentioned in the Halo Wars 2 game, because I reacted to the cutscenes for it a while back, and to the best of my recollection, nothing is mentioned about the Prometheans, or even said. I could be wrong about that, and it's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, so I mean, it kind of boggles the mind.